Hello, and welcome to another Let's Plot. Today, we will be looking at Hades. Hades is a pretty slow character, and quite possibly one of the slowest in the game, and he has the unique mechanic of Titans. Titans essentially act as allies, but they can only be played to the underworld, and its objective is to have three of them untrapped at Mount Olympus. When a Titan is trapped, they cannot be used in a vanquish action, and more importantly, they cannot be moved or used in Hades' objective. Now, we're going to mix things up a little bit today. First, we're going to be going over the board, and then we're going to be looking at the cards instead of the other way around. This is just because his move and ally or item actions are so intrinsically tied to his objective. So, getting right into it. First, we have the Underworld. The Underworld has 2 power on top, a play card on top, and then the move ally or item, or usually in this case, Titan, on the bottom, as well as a Vanquish. This location is okay. It's really good for getting your Titans across because it's one of your 2 move actions. But that's really all you want to come here for, that and vanquishing heroes. And ideally, you want to be vanquishing a hero and moving a Titan at the same time. So if you can't do one or the other, it's not great to come here. If you go there and you cannot vanquish a hero, and a hero is played, that means you have another 2 whole turns of having to deal with that hero. And having the play card on top means that you have to have all of your resources in place before you move to that location. So it can be a bit tricky to play around. Then you have Thieves with a gain 1 power on top, as well as a play a card, and your Fate discard at the bottom. Pretty standard discard reset your hand location. And you get to Fate to boot, so that's pretty good. You have the Gardens with 2 play cards, gain 3 power, and discard. Discarding, always really good. 2 play a card sounds really good. The problem is that Hades' deck is just so expensive. Each of his Titans is either 2 or 3 power, so that only gets you 1 Titan. And so you really just come here for the game power and discard. Last but not least, we have Mount Olympus. Mount Olympus is Hades' best location when it is uncovered. When it is uncovered, you have a move an ally or item, or Titan, and a Fate. This is incredible. You get to progress your objective, you get to Fate your opponent, then you can play another card here, and you can also gain a power. The power isn't like amazing, but it's something. The problem is once it gets covered. When it is covered, you only have a gain 1 power and play a card. It is a strictly worse Gardens. So, it is a good idea to try to keep that clear. With what? Well, we're about to get into that. So, Hades' Titans. He has 5 of these Titans, and all of them can be used in a Vanquish action. However, they will be discarded unless you attach the Mortality Potion to a hero. That means, at best, it is 4 power to uh, to vanquish a hero. Panic will reduce it a little bit, but it's still pretty expensive. You only have 3 mortality potions in the deck, and so use them sparingly. Now, let's go over these titans. In order of importance, in my opinion, we have Hydros. The best part about Hydros and Stratos is that they are 2 cost. And you'll notice that I believe that they are the two best ones. So, Hydros has two abilities. His first ability is that heroes cannot be moved from his location. On its own, I think this would be the best ability. With Hydros, you want to keep him in the underworld for as long as possible, move any of the other Titans first, and that way, if Zeus ever shows up, you can play Rage and keep him there for the rest of the game. And any hero that is at Hydros' location has no way to move unless Hydros gets trapped. So if you just let them exist at the underworld, Zeus, one of the most devastating heroes, he doesn't really have an ability, and you can just ignore him. He also has the ability of giving all heroes -1 strength. This is also incredibly good. Mostly for these two. For Hercules and Zeus, they are 5 strength, which means you'll need 2 allies or titans. And you don't really want to use titans because they get discarded. However, if Hydros is here, and you have Lithos, Pyros, or Argus also at that location, because they have to be played to the underworld, they can take Hercules out all by themselves. And yes, it's not great to lose a Titan, but it's better than dealing with Hercules for the rest of the game. Same thing with Zeus, the same 5 strength threshold. Just be a little careful because Hermes can bring him back. So, if you have to move him, go ahead and do it, but if you have another Titan to move, let Hydros have a party at the underworld with Zeus and everyone else that would like to join him. Next, you have Stratos, the next best Titan. Stratos will move heroes when he is moved to their location. Unfortunately, the two best locations are your very first one for playing a card and moving, and the very last one. So these two moves really don't matter all that much. Sure, you can clear up one location with him, but it's not too amazing. What you really want to do with Stratos is move him into a Olympus with a card called Get Ready to Rumble, and then you are able to clear up those top actions. On that turn, you can make another move, and Fate as well. Then you have Argus, who is our first 3-cost Titan we're going to talk about. Argus, when he is moved, you just get 1 power. Very handy. Great if he's your first Titan. If he's your last Titan, still, extra power is pretty nice. Pyros will untrap a Titan when he is moved to their location. The ability only is really good because you only have 3 copies of the card that you untrap Titans with. So having that backup is pretty alright, even though he'll probably get trapped first. But it's still not too bad. And then you have Lithos. Very easily the worst Titan, and one you are pretty okay with throwing away to defeat Hercules or Zeus. The reason why he's not great is that you get a free Vanquish action whenever he is moved. There are 2 problems with this. And he does have to be part of that action, which is a 3rd problem. But your first problem is that you already have a Vanquish action at one location that you use to move. The second problem is, if you use him in that action and the hero does not have a mortality potion, he gets discarded, which really makes you waste a move, a play, and all that power to just get rid of a hero. Which, yes, they are annoying, but not worth all of that effort to get rid of. So yeah, be sure to discard Lithos uh, if he comes up late, but if you get him early, it's still better to play him and start moving him than continuing discarding. And for the mortality potions, you're definitely going to want to discard them as well, at least until you get a Titan, because they're pretty useless until you get one. Next, you have Get Ready to Rumble. Get Ready to Rumble has a question mark cost, which means you can either pay 2 power to move a Titan one location, or 5 power to move them 2 locations. This is incredibly good because you only need to move Stratos once to get him over there, then pay your 5 power to move over there to uncover Olympus for a bit of a uh, sneaky reveal and uncover of those actions. You really do want to be using the 5 cost version. Yes, it is a bit more expensive, but you only have 3 copies of this card, and otherwise you're going to have to be spending at least 9 turns just moving. And that's not counting any fates that get in your way. Next, you have Planets Align. Planets Align is another question mark cost, and you just pay 1 power to untrap a Titan for as many times as you need to, so up to 5. The problem with this card is that there are so many fate cards that trap Titans, but only 3 copies of Planets Align. So you definitely need to hold on to one. Pyros is not reliable as your untrapper, so don't be counting on him. Your first Planets Align you can pretty safely discard. Your second Planets Align really depends on when you get it. If you get it early, you're probably going to have to discard it. But if it comes late, you are probably going to be playing it, so hold on to it until you need to. And then you're probably going to use that final one to get to your win condition. So, that is the basics of the getting Hayes to his win con. Now let's get into more digging into Hayes' deck, quite literally with Eye of the Fates. Eye of the Fates costs 2 power and reveals cards until you find an ally or titan. You do not get to choose, unlike Jafar's Scrying. This card should pretty much always be discarded. 2 power is very expensive because you have a 5 cost card, 3 cost cards, more 2 cost cards, and some of his allies are 3 power. It can be very rough. Now it sounds good that you might get a Titan, but you also just might flip over the next card to get Pain. Literally. Uh, so not really reliable, unfortunately. You also have I Rule, a nice power gaining tool, which gives you 1 power for each ally or Titan in the discard pile. Early game, you should be pretty much discarding all your allies to get to the Titans, unless you have the power to play them that turn. So it can give you a good amount of power in the late game. Don't hold on to it to discard more, just play it when you can and discard to get to those important Titans. And now let's talk about the Chariot, the best utility tool Hades has. The Chariot is 3 costs, so kind of expensive, but very much worth it. The Chariot allows Hades to take an extra action at a different location if he ends the turn at the Chariot's location. This is incredibly good for getting an extra move, or getting the power back to pay off the Chariot, or getting a Ready to Rumble. Discarding is okay, but another amazing use for this card is to Fate, move out of the way, gain 3 power or whatever, and then you can Fate again. Something else you can do with this card is that if Olympus is uncovered, and this is important that it's uncovered, move the chariot, go gain your 3, and then next turn, you can move your chariot again. This is really only good if your titans are trapped or you don't have any titans yet, but it's still something to keep in mind if you really need those extra fates, since Hades is not the fastest character. Another useful utility tool, Rage, which we talked about earlier. During their turn, if another player defeats a hero with a 3 or more strength, you can move a hero to another location. This is great for removing heroes off of Mount Olympus and sticking them with Hydros in the underworld. It can really help you fate on a turn that you maybe weren't expecting, uh, and you don't have to deal with those heroes as much. It doesn't defeat the heroes, and it still may be worth it to defeat the heroes. Like Zeus is probably worth it to get a 4 strength ally or Titan for, and a mortality potion if you use the Titan. But very handy in helping clear your realm. Unfortunately, there is a fate card that can undo this unless you have Hydros. Moving on to his allies, we have Panic. Panic is your best ally. If Hades is at Panic's location, all costs for items, titans, and allies are reduced by 1 power. What this means is that all of those expensive cards cost just a little less. So where's the best place to put him? The guards is a very good option. Getting 2 cost per turn you go there is very nice. However, if Gardens gets covered with Megara, or for example, then you only get the 1 play a card. It may not be worth it to go there when you need to fate. So maybe you place Panic where your fate is. Unfortunately, that is where your top play card is. So if that hero is there, you don't get his ability at all. Same for the Underworld. No top play means the ability is pretty useless. He does have 2 strength, though that won't really come into play. So I just recommend playing him wherever you're going the most at the moment. If he gets stranded somewhere, that's unfortunate, but just it's fine. Now, all of these allies are uh, cheaper, as well as your titans, but so is your mortality potion and chariot. So don't forget about that when thinking about moving to his location. The only location I would not recommend you place him is Mount Olympus, since you're not going there if it's covered, and 2 strength is not uncovering Mount Olympus, and then you wouldn't get the ability. Let's jump right into Pain, right after Panic. Pain, on the other hand, is discard fodder. Pain only moves a hero when he is moved, and he has to be at that location with the hero. So it might be handy to move heroes out of the way, but you have just wasted a valuable move action to not defeat a hero, and that hero can just be easily moved right back over. And 2 strength for 2 power is not worth it. So you really only have 3 vanquishing allies. And then you also have your 3 mortality potions, but that's really it. So be careful who you're vanquishing. First up, we have Nessus. If Nessus is used to defeat a hero with 3 or less strength, you get 2 power back. So he essentially only costs 1. It's pretty handy to defeat Meg, Hermes, or Phil, or Pegasus. But don't be afraid to defeat a 4 strengther or 5 strengther with him. 4 strength is still very good, and you don't want that ally to go to waste. You also have the Hydra, 2 cost with 3 strength, so it can only defeat Meg, Hermes, Phil, and Pegasus. But Hydra will return to your hand after you use it in a Vanquish action, if you so choose. Usually you'll want to, unless you have Titans at Mount Olympus, in which case you could just prepare Mortality Potions. But usually you'll want Hydra over at Mount Olympus just to try to keep that a little clearer. Cerberus is 4 strength and can be used at adjacent locations, so you're only going to want to play him over at Thebes or Gardens. That way he gets the maximum range. If Hercules is in play, definitely Thebes. If Zeus is in play, go for the Gardens so he can attack Mount Olympus, since Zeus will probably be over here. And 4 strength, very good. Just whenever you're over there moving your Titans, go ahead and do that Vanquish. You also have Achilles' Heel, which reduces a hero's strength by 2. This is incredibly good to get Nessus's ability, but it's even better for Hydra. Because with Achilles' Heel, you can use Hydra's ability to defeat Zeus. And it may be worth it to play the Achilles' Heel to give Hercules -2 strength, and then you can go right over and vanquish him from the Gardens to the vanquish at the Underworld. So, very tricky plays with the Chariot. Achilles' Heel, not worth holding on to, unfortunately, since it is only for the turn, but can be very handy in a pinch. Your other condition, Ruthless, is another discard fodder card. It only matters if your opponent has 6 or more power, and if your opponent is paying attention and knows Hades' cards, they will never get to 6 or more power unless they're Prince John, but don't count on always playing against Prince John. And all Ruthless does is play an ally or item for free. I'm sorry, not an item. Ally or Titan for free. So at most it's 3 power, which, yes, nice, but not worth holding on to. Unlike Rage, where it is part of your main tools of dealing with heroes. So let's talk about these heroes to wrap this up. You've got Hercules, who will usually play to the Underworld and stop all Titan movement. As discussed before, the best way to deal with him is Hydros to bring him down to 4 strength, and then Cerberus, or Nessus, or maybe one of your 4 strength Titans to vanquish him. You have Zeus, who, when a Titan is moved to his location, they will instantly become trapped. This is pretty bad. However, if a Titan is trapped at Mount Olympus, they cannot be moved away. So at that point, just wait until you're ready to win to play Planets Align. But you're still going to want to deal with him, because if you deal with him before Titans get over there, you don't have to play the Planets Align. But if you let Titans get trapped, you will have to, and there are only 3 copies in your deck. Notably, neither of these cards stop Hades when he has 3 Titans at Mount Olympus. So let's go over the cards that do stop Hades from winning. You have Go the Distance, which moves a Titan back 2 spaces, or moves a hero. Usually it'll move the Titan back 2 spaces, but the moving a hero is why you want Hydros and Zeus at the Underworld. You have Hera, who, when played or moved, will trap a Titan. Another way for Titans to be trapped. Very annoying. Hera's move ability really doesn't matter. The only card that will really move her is Meg, since Go the Distance will probably move Titans as opposed to trapping them. But still, very annoying. And then you have Pegasus. Pegasus moves a Titan back one location from where he's played. So if you don't have a Titan at Mount Olympus, it's not too bad. You can deal with Pegasus here or here. But pretty annoying if he gets put over there. And of the cards we talked about just now, all of those only matter if you have 3 Titans. If you can make the trek of 4 Titans all the way over there, those do not stop Hades from winning. However, I would not recommend you waste your time trying to get all 4 if you can get 3. Because maybe they don't draw one of those cards. And then you've just wasted all that time. So go for the 3 Titan win, but if they get trapped or moved away, usually trapped, you can move your Titans in the meantime and then secure your victory. And then we have the Lightning Bolt. The Lightning Bolt is the only card that stops your win if you have 4 Titans or 5, which traps all Titans at a location. So you'll probably want to spread your Titans out as you move them if you can afford it. But remember, you will need to get them all at Olympus eventually. But make sure you use that move action as soon as you play a Titan so they're not all stacked at the Underworld and prime Lightning Bolt target. You have Meg, whose ability is move a hero from the location she's played to, which really only impacts Hera and is another reason why you want Hydros. You have Hermes, another reason you want Hydros because he moves Zeus. But more likely, he will find Zeus from the deck or discard pile and place him on top. So never defeat Zeus before Hermes is played, otherwise you're just going to have to do it again. Or if Hermes is discarded, that's fine too. You have Phil, who doesn't really matter. He just gives himself and Hercules a +1 buff if they're both in your realm. He is a prime target for Achilles' heel because you can vanquish him for free. Another thing I wanted to mention about Achilles' heel real quick. If you have Hydros and a 3 strength hero and Achilles' heel, that brings him down to 0 strength, and you can vanquish him for free. So, very handy. You have the Medallion, which just gives +2 strength to heroes. This can be annoying because it will require an extra ally if it's given to Hercules or Zeus, but if it's given to anyone else, it doesn't really matter. And lastly, the Gospel Truth, also known as discarding the Chariot. It'll also discard an ally, so don't rely solely on allies for your vanquishing tools. Make sure you use those mortality potions as well. And don't rely solely on the mortality potions because it could get rid of that too if your chariot's not in play. But that will be it for our Hades Let's Plot. Thank you all for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Goodbye.